Hello and welcome to today's lesson, lesson 5.2, solving a system of equations by substitution. So in our previous lesson we learned about solving a system of equations by graphing, and today we'll be looking at solving them through the use of substitution. So when I begin our lesson, we need to first define what does it mean for substitution, and it's very similar to the plug and chug. We're just going to be substituting in. So when one of the equations, so we have our two equations in our system, is written for one of the variables, example x equals or y equals, then we will substitute that equation for that variable in the other equation in order to solve. So remember, the solution to a system is always a coordinate point. It's always that point where they intersect on the graph, which is x comma y. And we can always verify that by plugging in our solution point into both equations, and it should check or work in both equations. So we're looking for when one equation is written for the one of the variables. So let's take a look at our example. So example 1, we're going to solve the following system, and we're going to use substitution. So we notice that right away this first equation is written for one of the variables. It's written for y equals, and that's 2x. Now I could graph these. I could rewrite this in slope-intercept form. I could graph them. If you're comfortable doing that, you can do that. If you have graph paper and you want to do it that way, you can. But we're going to solve by using substitution today. So let's take a look here. So I have y equals 2x, and I have 6x minus y is 8. So the thing is that if y is equal to 2x, then what is y? What is this y? I need to get rid of this variable. I can't solve for both of these. I can only solve for one of them. Because remember, my answer is going to be some point. It's going to be x, some point written x comma y. So I need to know x and I need to know y. So I have to solve one of them at a time. So I can get rid of this y because I know that y is the same thing as 2x. So I'm just going to plug that in to this equation. So instead of 6x minus y, what do I know y is? Well, I know it's 2x. Because it told me y is 2x. So 6x minus y is 8. So 6x minus 2x is 8. That leaves me with 4x equals 8. So x equals 2. I have half of my answer. I don't have my whole answer. I only have half of it. So I know x is 2. So now I take this value and I need to go back up into one of these and figure out, well, what is y? Well, I'm just going to go back into the first one because it looks easier. I'm not going to have to do any solving or anything. I could plug it in here for the x and do that, but I can also just plug in here. So y equals 2x. I know that x is 2, so 2 times 2. So what does y equal? Well, y is 4. So what's my answer? 2 comma 4. Now I could have graphed those equations to get my answer. I just chose to substitute in the value for y into the second equation and get my answer that way. We'll be looking at some more solving these algebraically as well. Excuse me. Let's take a look at our second one here. So I have x equals y plus 20, and I have 2x plus 3y equals 0. So I'm going to substitute in, and I'm going to substitute this whole value here. So I'm going to put this in parentheses because it's this whole value in for x. So instead of x here, I'm going to have y plus 20. So it's not 2 times x, it's 2 times y plus 20 plus 3y equals 0. So now I only have one variable I'm solving for. Remember, my solution or my answer is going to be some point, x comma y up here. It's going to be some point. I need to find both my x and my y. So right now I'm solving for the y. So I'm going to do a little distributing here. So I have 2y. 2 times 20 is 40. Combine my y's. Subtract the 40. 5y equals negative 40. So y equals negative 8 when I divide both sides by 5. So that's my y value. So I know that this point is negative 8. So now I need to figure out, well, what is x? So I'm going to take this y value, this value of negative 8 for y, go back up to the first one, plug it in there, and see what I get as my answer. So I'm trying to find x. I know x equals y plus 20. I have this value for y now. Negative 8 plus 20. So x equals 12. So my solution to this system of equations using substitution is 12, comma, negative 8. Once again, I could have graphed that to get my answer. There were many ways that I could have gone about getting that answer. Excuse me. So let's take a look at a third example, and then I'll have you try one on your own. Today's lesson is quite short, so let's take a look. I have x plus 5y equals 2, and I have x equals negative 4y plus 5. So I have a value for x. It's this quantity. I'm going to plug that in here for this x here. So I have negative 4y plus 5 plus 5y equals 2. Remember, the solution I'm looking for is a point. Just like I have x comma y is a point. That's what I'm looking for, an x value and a y value. So I have negative 4y plus 5 plus 5y equals 2. Combine those y's. So I have negative 4 plus 5 is just y plus 5 equals 2. Subtract 5 from both sides. Y equals negative 3. So my y value is negative 3. Now I need to determine x. So I know y is negative 3. So I'm just going to take that, plug it in for y right here, and solve. So x equals negative 4 times negative 3 plus 5. X equals a positive 12, negative times a negative is positive, plus 5. So x equals 17. And that goes in my other answer here, other part of my answer. So I have my answer of 17, comma, negative 3. Now it's your turn. Please pause at this time, solve this equation, and check back in just a moment. Excuse me. Alright, so let's take a look here. Looks like I'm going to be substituting the x here in for this x down here. So I have 2 times x, which I'm substituting into y plus 5 plus 3y equals 18. Remember, my solution is always going to be x comma y, this x comma y value here. So I want to make sure that I'm solving for one of the variables. I have only one variable here, so I know I'm okay. I gotta do a little distributive property. Negative 4y plus 10 plus 3y equals 18. Combine my like terms. A negative 4 plus positive 3 will give me a negative 1y plus 10 equals 18. Subtract the 10 from both sides. Negative 1y equals 8. Divide by negative 1. And y equals negative 8. So I have half of my answer. It's negative 8. Now I need to take that y value back up here to the top. Plug it in for y, and that will give me my x. So I know that x equals negative 2y plus 5. Negative 2 times negative 8 plus 5. 16 plus 5. So x is 21. So my answer is 21, comma, negative 8. Now, I could have graphed that. I could have solved it many different ways. Graphing 21, comma, negative 8, I would need a pretty big piece of graph paper in order to do that. That's why substitution allows us to quickly and easily solve many equations when we see that one of the equations is written for one of the variables. That is the end of today's lesson. If you could please make sure to watch any of the other remaining videos. complete your homework assignment before doing your quiz for this section, and contact your teacher if you have any other remaining questions regarding today's lesson. Thank you.